My sister thought that when she said "I do," she was not just getting a husband. She thought she was getting a $5.2 million lakefront estate. She had planned everything with the confidence of a woman who had never been taught that paperwork could bite. She blocked my wedding announcement. She intercepted certified mail. She convinced half the family I was spiraling, jealous, and too fragile to discuss marriage. Then she rushed her own wedding onto my grandmother's historic property and started renovating like the deed already had her name on it. But Kiara forgot one small detail. My grandmother did not leave a normal will. She left a living trust. And that trust did not care who wore the larger dress, hired the better photographer, or live-streamed the more expensive ceremony. It cared about one thing only: which granddaughter walked into the trustee's office first with a certified marriage certificate. So when my sister stood on the grand ballroom stage at Willowmere Manor, lifting champagne beneath chandeliers she had installed with money she should not have touched, and announced that she was cutting down my grandmother's century-old willow tree to make room for a DJ stage, I did not scream. I touched the folded invoice in my handbag. Then I looked at my husband, Elias Brooks, the quiet man she had ordered to stand in the back because the real family seats were full, squeezed my hand once. He is not flashy. He is not loud. He is a certified arborist. And if there is one thing you should never do in northern New York, it is threaten a heritage tree on protected property in front of a certified arborist and the woman who legally owns the land beneath it. Let me back up. My name is Amara Bennett. I am 32 years old, African American, and I am a CPA. In my family, that made me useful, but not interesting. I was the practical daughter. The dry one. The one with low heels, clean spreadsheets, and the ability to make tax notices stop sounding scary. My sister Kiara was the star. She was 29, beautiful, dramatic, and fully convinced that having 80,000 social media followers was the same as having a profession. She called herself a lifestyle influencer, which meant she filmed skincare routines in houses she did not pay for and used words like alignment when she meant money. Our parents, Denise and Roland Bennett, adored her performance. They loved telling people Kiara was creative. They loved telling people I was reliable. Reliable is a dangerous word in the wrong family. It sounds like praise until you realize it means nobody plans to protect you. The first time I remember being reliable, I was 8. Kiara had knocked over a crystal vase in my grandmother's sunroom because she was practicing a dance routine too close to a table. Glass scattered across the floor like ice. She cried before anyone accused her of anything, big theatrical sobs that made my mother rush in and gather her up. "Amara, get the broom," Mom said. "I did not break it." "I know, baby, but your sister is upset." That was the whole system in miniature. Kiara caused the damage. I cleaned the pieces. Everyone praised me for being mature. By middle school, I was editing Kiara's essays because she expressed herself better out loud. By high school, I quietly covered for her when she skipped obligations and then listened to our parents call her passionate. In college, when her card declined during a spring break trip, she called me before she called the bank. I sent the money because I had a campus bookkeeping job and she had tears. My parents never saw those transfers as rescue. They saw them as proof that I had extra time, extra patience, extra strength, extra love that did not need to be returned. Willowmere Manor had been in my grandmother Lillian Bennett's line since the 1920s. My great-grandfather built it when black families with money had to be twice as private and 3 times as careful to keep what they earned. 12 bedrooms, white columns, black shutters, a wraparound porch overlooking 20 acres of lakefront land. The ballroom held weddings, charity dinners, historical society events, and the kind of quiet gatherings where old families pretend not to calculate each other's assets. The estate made about $450,000 a year in net profit as a high-end venue, but the house was not the heart of it. The willow was. My great-grandfather planted that weeping willow beside the lake in 1924, the year my grandmother was born. By the time I was a child, its branches curved toward the water like green curtains, making a little room beneath it where sunlight moved in soft pieces. Grandma Lillian sat there every afternoon when she was well, paperback in her lap, tea in a thermos, scarf tied around her silver hair. That tree held her life. It held mine too. When I was 10 and Kiara cried because I won the school math competition, Grandma took me under the willow and said, "Some people need the whole room to clap before they know they exist. You do not." When I was 16 and my mother told me not to outshine Kiara at a family party because my sister was sensitive, Grandma sat me under that tree and showed me the estate ledgers. "Numbers tell the truth even when people do not," she said. "That is probably why I became a CPA. And that is definitely why Kiara should have been afraid of me." 2 years before the wedding, Grandma got sick. Not gently. Illness rarely respects elegant women just because they deserve softness. Her room began to smell like antiseptic, lotion, and the paperbacks I read aloud because she liked hearing familiar sentences even when medication made her drift. For 6 months, my world narrowed to heart monitors, ventilator rhythms, pill schedules, nurse names, insurance calls, and the thin warmth of her hand in mine. I slept on the sofa near her bed. I learned which beep meant a sensor had slipped and which beep meant panic. I learned which nurses listened and which ones needed a CPA daughter checking every chart twice. I read her the novels she loved. I brushed her hair. I held water to her lips. I sat through procedures my parents found too upsetting and Kiara found too low vibration. Some nights Grandma was lucid. Those were the nights that hurt and healed at the same time. She would wake near 2 in the morning, eyes cloudy but present, and ask whether the lake had frozen yet. I would describe it from memory because the hospital window faced a brick wall. I told her about snow on the porch railings, geese leaving tracks by the shore, and the willow branches bare and silver over the water. "Still standing?" she asked once. "The willow?" "Mm-hmm. Still standing." Her fingers tightened around mine. "Good. Some things should outlive foolishness." I thought she meant winter. Now I know she meant us. My parents visited when it looked good to visit. Sunday afternoons, pressed clothes, flowers from the gift shop, 15 minutes of soft voices, then a dinner reservation because grief made my mother hungry for attention. Kiara posted one photo from Grandma's bedside with the caption, "Honoring my queen," then left before the nurse changed the IV bag. Grandma noticed more than anyone wanted to believe. People assume dying women are too weak to keep score. My grandmother kept ledgers in her bones. The night the doctor said Grandma's lungs were failing, I called my sister. Kiara was in Barbados. The bass from some beach club thudded through the phone. "Amara, do not be dramatic," she said. "I cannot be around sick energy right now. I have a brand live stream tomorrow, and I need to stay positive. You are good at hospital stuff. Just handle it." She may not make it through the night. Then tell her I love her. I have to go. Click. No sobbing. No flight home. No, put the phone by her ear. Just the sound of my sister choosing engagement metrics over the woman who had funded her entire adult life through the annual development allowance Grandma created for both of us. $10,000 each year for education and personal development. I used mine for certification courses and continuing education. Kiara used hers for ring lights, retreats, sponsored travel she paid for herself, and white linen outfits she called business expenses. Grandma knew. Of course she knew. She died on a Tuesday in late January, while snow turned the lake white beyond the windows. I was holding her hand when the monitor tone flattened into one long sound that seemed to empty the room of everything except truth. I did not cry immediately. I was too tired. 3 days later, we gathered in Willowmere Manor's living room for the trust reading. My parents sat dressed in funeral black but already alert, the way people become alert when grief is about to become inventory. Kiara perched on the arm of the sofa, phone face down on her lap, which was the longest I had seen her not check it in years. Attorney Solomon Price, Grandma's longtime attorney and successor trustee, sat in her wingback chair with a leather portfolio open on his knees. He was in his 70s, silver-haired, dark-skinned, and steady in the way only someone who has watched families tear themselves apart over furniture can be steady. "Before we begin," he said, "I want to make one thing clear. Lillian Bennett revised this trust 6 times in 3 years to make sure there would be no ambiguity. My mother leaned forward. She wanted everything to go to the girls. Not exactly, Attorney Price said. The room seemed to lose oxygen. He read the clause slowly. Willowmere Manor, including all buildings, land, furnishings, business operations, accounts, and related assets, had been transferred into a revocable living trust. Beneficiary rights and control would activate immediately for whichever granddaughter first presented a legal certified marriage certificate to the trustee. Silence. Then my father stood. That is ridiculous. We are her children. Attorney Price did not blink. You are not beneficiaries of this asset. We maintained this place. Your mother was precise. She wanted the estate preserved by someone with maturity, stability, and commitment to legacy. She chose this mechanism. My father made a sound of disbelief. Marriage is maturity? That is antiquated. Your mother was not using marriage as morality, Attorney Price said. She was using it as a legal trigger, a bright line event. Easy to verify, difficult to litigate. She wanted no arguments over intent. There will be arguments, Mom said. There may be emotion, he replied. There will not be ambiguity. That was the first time I saw fear pass across my mother's face. Not sadness, not insult. Fear. She understood what Kiara did not. The trust had been written by a woman who knew exactly how our family operated. Grandma had removed the gray areas because gray areas were where my parents hid favoritism and called it fairness. Kiara's mouth hung open for maybe 3 seconds. Then the mask snapped back. Well, she said, smoothing her skirt, maybe Grandma meant to motivate us. Honestly, maybe this is exactly what Amara needs. Some encouragement to finally stop overthinking everything. I felt my face heat. My mother, trying to be helpful and somehow choosing violence, said, Amara and Elias have been together for 5 years. They are practically married. Kiara has not kept a relationship for more than 6 months. Thank you, Mom, I said. Attorney Price continued. There is also a preservation clause. Any significant alteration to the property, including removal of historical plantings, architectural changes, or major shifts to business operations, requires approval from a 3-person heritage board, which I chair. He closed the portfolio. The first certified marriage certificate presented activates ownership. No probate, no waiting period, no court process. He looked at me, then at Kiara. I strongly encourage decisions based on love, not real estate. Kiara heard real estate. That was all. After that day, she invaded Willowmere Manor like a bride claiming a country. She filmed herself in the ballroom, running her fingers over antique furniture and telling followers she was going to refresh the energy. She called Grandma's sage green walls dreary. She said the gardens needed youth. She spoke about turning the manor into the most exclusive, content-friendly wedding venue in the region, as if it had not already been profitable for decades before she learned how to use portrait mode. My parents cheered her on. They complained that the trust was unfair. They told me not to be jealous. They said Kiara had momentum and I had Elias, which apparently meant I needed nothing else. Elias and I had planned an October wedding under the willow. Small ceremony, autumn leaves, Grandma's favorite season, no influencer guests, no drone footage, no chandeliers imported from anywhere, just vows beneath the branches that had watched me become myself. One February evening, I came home from work, dropped my bag, and sat on our sofa, still in my coat. Elias found me staring at the ceiling. "Talk to me," he said. So I did. I told him about Kiara's live streams, my parents' pressure, and the way it felt like I was watching Grandma's life get staged for someone else's brand before the trust even changed hands. Elias listened. He always listened first. Then he said, "Amara, did you hear Attorney Price carefully?" I heard enough to feel sick. He said marriage certificate. He did not say wedding. He did not say dress. He did not say reception. He said certificate. I sat up. Elias took my hand. "Tomorrow is Valentine's Day. City Hall opens at 9. My heart began pounding. That is not the wedding we planned. No, he said, it is not. But we can still have that wedding later, under the willow, with peace. If we wait, Kiara will find a man and sprint to the altar because she thinks love and acquisition are the same thing. You would marry me tomorrow? He smiled then, soft and certain. I wanted to marry you yesterday. Tomorrow is convenient. If you have ever had to choose a quiet legal move over the pretty version of a dream because someone was trying to steal the future attached to it, tell me where you are listening from. Sometimes the paperwork is not the romance, but it is the shield that lets romance survive. The next day, Valentine's Day, Elias and I got married at City Hall during my lunch break. No flowers, no music, no white dress, just a clerk named Naomi, fluorescent lights, 2 witnesses from the hallway, and a $50 administrative fee. One witness was a security guard who had been eating a granola bar when Naomi asked whether anyone in the hallway could spare 5 minutes. The other was an older woman waiting to file a business license renewal. She cried when we exchanged vows because, as she told us afterward, she had been married 41 years and loved a practical wedding. There was nothing cinematic about it. The printer jammed once. Someone's toddler cried outside the records office. Elias had ink on his thumb from signing 3 copies because the pen leaked, and still, when he looked at me and promised himself to me in that fluorescent hallway, I felt more loved than I had felt at any family event in my life. He was not marrying me for property. He was not racing Kiara. He was not rescuing me from loneliness. He was standing beside me because that was where he had chosen to be, long before the trust made timing urgent. When Naomi handed us the certified marriage certificate, her tired face softened. "Congratulations," she said. "Happy Valentine's Day." Elias kissed me outside by the courthouse steps, gentle and warm, and for one perfect minute, it felt like the world had narrowed to our hands and the paper between them. Then I called my mother. She answered on the 3rd ring. "Amara, this is not a good time. I am at the florist with Kiara." "Mom, I need to tell you something important." "Elias and I got married today." Silence. "What?" "We went to City Hall. I have the certificate. I am taking it to Attorney Price tomorrow morning." Her voice turned cold so quickly it nearly stole the warmth from my hand. "Stop it." "Mom!" "Signing administrative papers is not a wedding. Do not overshadow your sister with some pathetic courthouse stunt." "It is legal. This is selfish, attention-seeking behavior, and I am ashamed you would do this while Kiara is planning something beautiful." She hung up. I stood on the courthouse steps with the phone in my hand and the first legal proof of my marriage in the other, feeling like a child who had brought home straight A's and been told to be quieter because her sister was napping. Elias put his arm around me. "We knew they might do that. I thought maybe she would be happy for me. We do not need her approval." "No," I said, looking down at the certificate. "We need the law." The next morning, I walked into Attorney Price's downtown office. His assistant showed me into a wood-paneled room that smelled like old books and furniture polish. Attorney Price looked up, saw the certificate in my hand, and smiled like he had been expecting exactly this. "Mrs. Brooks," he said, then glanced at the document. "Or still Bennett professionally?" "Still Bennett professionally." "Smart." He examined the certificate, checked the seal, verified the filing, and nodded. "The trust conditions have been fully met. Effective immediately, you are the sole legal owner of Willowmere Manor, including property, business assets, operating accounts, furnishings, and related rights." The words landed in my body slowly. Sole legal owner. Not someday, not after a hearing. Now. Attorney Price prepared the activation documents and preservation order. He would file with the county recorder the same day. He would notify insurance, banking, venue booking services, and my parents, who were listed only as temporary property managers. They must cease all property decisions and return keys and access codes within 30 days, he said. "What if they do not?" "Then they are trespassing." What if someone damages the property before that is enforced? His eyes sharpened. They are liable for restoration costs, diminished value, and potentially punitive damages, especially for historically significant elements. The willow. He leaned back. Your grandmother had that tree documented as a heritage planting, over 100 years old, tied to the original owner and preservation plan. If anyone removes or damages it without written authorization and proper permits, the legal consequences could be substantial. He wrote a name on the back of his card, property law specialist, and I would keep your husband close. Certified arborists make excellent witnesses. I almost laughed. I intend to. After the meeting, Attorney Price mailed ownership notices and preservation orders to my parents by certified mail. Kiara intercepted them. Again, she had moved into my parents' house for wedding planning, which apparently included controlling the mailbox. She signed for the envelope, saw Attorney Price's return address, and hid the documents because she thought anything legal was just old people trying to ruin her aesthetic. I also mailed my parents a wedding announcement with a certified copy of the marriage registration. Kiara tore that up too. I know because my cousin Devin told me weeks later, guilty and miserable over coffee. She opened it before your parents saw it, he said. She told them it was fake paperwork you forged because you were jealous. And they believed her? He looked away. Of course they did. Kiara did not stop with paper. She logged into the shared family email account my parents still used for announcements and set up a filter deleting anything from me containing the word wedding. Then she messaged the family group chat, the one I had been removed from months earlier. Family, please do not mention weddings to Amara. She is having a difficult emotional period because of the trust. She and Elias are in crisis and she needs space. Pray for her, but do not engage the topic. She made me unstable. She made herself gracious. She erased my marriage and called it protection. The cruelty of it took a few days to fully land. At first I thought the silence from cousins and aunts meant they were angry. Then I realized they thought they were being kind. They had been instructed not to trigger me. People who had watched me handle audits, hospital shifts, death paperwork, and estate logistics suddenly believed I could be shattered by the word wedding because Kiara had said it in the group chat. I received one text from an aunt I had not spoken to in months. Thinking of you. No pressure to respond. Healing takes time. I stared at that message for 10 minutes. Kiara had not just hidden my marriage. She had converted my truth into a diagnosis. But I did not need their recognition. I needed ownership, and I had it. While hiding legal notices in her bedroom, Kiara selected a groom. His name was Jalen Pierce, a 28-year-old lifestyle content creator with 50,000 followers, perfect teeth, and a smile that looked better in photos than in person. They had dated 3 weeks when she proposed during a staged beach photo shoot at sunset. He said yes because Jalen understood that marrying Kiara meant proximity to a $5.2 million estate and a wedding venue he could turn into content. The date was set for late March. 6 weeks. Not because they were madly in love, because Kiara was racing the trust she thought she could beat. My cousin Devin kept me updated because guilt is sometimes useful. Your parents are spending a lot of money, he told me. Renovations, floors, lights, bridal suite. Your mom keeps saying it is an investment in Kiara's future. My stomach dropped. I called my mother one last time. Mom, listen to me. You cannot spend money renovating Willowmere. You do not have authorization. Shut up, Amara. Her voice was not tired. It was vicious. You are jealous. This is an investment in your sister's future. Unlike you, she is building something meaningful. Legally, I need you to understand. I do not want to hear your legal nonsense. Do not call me again until you can be happy for your sister. Click. Elias watched from the kitchen doorway. She hung up. She told me not to call until I can be happy for Kiara. He took the phone gently from my hand. You warned them. Multiple times. They are spending retirement money on a house they do not control. Then document everything. So I did. Because I am a CPA, and spreadsheets are how I breathe when people insist on chaos. From mid-February to late March, contractors came and went constantly. I drove by twice and saw paint crews, electricians, flooring specialists, furniture trucks, lighting installers. Devin sent me photos when he could. My parents spent $32,000 repainting the ballroom from Grandma's soft sage green to bright modern white. They refinished the oak floors until they shone honey gold. They furnished the bridal suite with a 4-poster bed, gauzy curtains, and an antique vanity that cost more than the car I drove in college. Kiara spent $20,000 of her own money, likely from Grandma's annual development fund, replacing chandelier fixtures with Italian imports. She bought blush velvet curtains, upgraded outdoor lighting, installed a sound system, and commissioned custom signage with her and Jalen's names. The invoices came to me indirectly, like gossip wearing numbers. Devin sent photographs of contractor trucks. I searched business license records for the companies. I watched Kiara's live streams and froze frames where estimates or delivery tags appeared in the background. One florist accidentally tagged the venue account with a behind-the-scenes reel showing an open binder on the bar. I zoomed in and found a payment schedule, $32,000 from my parents, $20,000 from Kiara, plus donated labor from 2 family friends who thought they were helping the future owner. I entered every line into my spreadsheet: date, vendor, amount, source of confirmation, whether the improvement increased asset value, whether it violated the preservation clause. By the time the rehearsal dinner arrived, my workbook had 6 tabs, color coding, screenshots, embedded links, and a summary page that made Elias say, "I love you and I fear you." Every day she live-streamed. "You guys, this transformation is insane," she gushed, camera sweeping across my ballroom. "This is going to be the wedding venue in northern New York. Like, people are going to beg to book here." The comments fed her. "Take my money. Dream venue. Your grandma would be so proud." That last one nearly made me throw my phone. Elias and I watched some streams over dinner because evidence gathering sometimes looks like masochism to outsiders. "Your parents are spending their retirement fund," he said one night as Kiara showed off the new chandelier. "I know. Do you want to stop them?" "Part of me does." "And the other part?" "The other part remembers my mother hanging up on me." He nodded. "Then keep documenting." That was one of the reasons Elias and I worked. He did not confuse restraint with weakness. He knew when to ask, "Are you sure?" and when to stand back while I built the kind of file that could survive court, family drama, and crocodile tears. He had spent years defending trees from developers who treated them like inconvenient vertical lumber. I had spent years defending numbers from people who treated them like suggestions. Between us, Kiara's wedding did not stand a chance. By early April, Willowmere looked spectacular. I hated that it did. The ballroom glowed. The floors were beautiful. The new curtains framed the lake like a painting. Kiara had created something visually stunning with money, access, and entitlement. She had also increased the value of my asset. The rehearsal dinner invitation reached me through Devin, not my parents. Heavy cardstock, gold foil, ridiculous language about 2 souls in divine union. Elias held it between 2 fingers. "Are we going?" "Absolutely." "For closure?" "For billing." The rehearsal dinner began at sunset. The lake reflected orange and pink light through the ballroom windows. The Italian chandeliers cast warm circles over the refinished floors. Kiara stood near the bar in a white dress that was not her wedding dress, but wanted everyone to know it had auditioned. Her influencer friends filmed each other filming her. When she saw us, her smile faltered for half a second. Then she glided over and gripped my arm too tightly. "Amara, I am so glad you came," she said, syrupy sweet. Her eyes dropped to my wedding band. "But why are you wearing that little ring? It looks like it came from a vending machine." The ring was simple. Silver. A small, real diamond Elias bought when we had more love than cash. I loved it more than any imported chandelier in that room. "It is my wedding ring." Kiara laughed. "City Hall paperwork is not a wedding." She looked at Elias. "Your boyfriend can stand in the back." "We are out of seats. The family tables are full." Elias's jaw tightened. We had prepared for worse. "That is fine," I said. "We will find somewhere." We sat near the back behind one of the blush curtains, which gave us a perfect view of everything. My parents at the head table, Kiara and Jalen glowing under stolen authority, the flowers, the cameras, the expensive improvements they had made to my property. In my handbag was a pre-printed itemized invoice. In Elias's briefcase were trust documents, my marriage certificate, an arborist report, tree valuation, preservation clauses, and a laptop ready for the projector. We had asked the venue staff earlier to set up the projection system for a family slideshow. They happily obliged. Technically, it was a family slideshow, just not the kind Kiara expected. Then she stood for her toast. "Cheers to me," Kiara announced, lifting champagne, "and to Mom and Dad for helping me make Willowmere finally beautiful." Applause. My parents beamed. Kiara gestured toward the windows. "And you all know that gloomy old willow by the lake?" The room quieted. My hand moved to the invoice. Elias went still beside me. "Next week the logging crew comes," Kiara said. "Boom, gone. That creepy tree will be replaced by a massive DJ stage facing the water. We are saying goodbye to Grandma's gloom and hello to a real party era." My mother clapped. That tree was too old anyway. I felt something in me go quiet. The last soft thing closed its eyes. Elias stood first. His chair scraped across the oak floor with a sound sharp enough to cut through the applause. "You will not touch one root of that willow." Kiara blinked, then laughed. "Sit down, Amara, and tell your boyfriend to sit too. The homeowner is speaking." I stood beside my husband. "Exactly," I said. "The homeowner is speaking, and she is telling you to get out of her house." My father laughed. "Enough with the dramatics." "Elias," I said. "Oh, show them." Elias placed his briefcase on the table with a clean, decisive sound and opened his laptop. The projector hummed to life. The first image filled the screen. Trust activation confirmation, county ownership filing, deed transfer. My name, Amara Bennett, legal owner of Willowmere Manor. The room went silent. Not awkward, silent. Kiara's influencer friends lowered their phones for the first time all night, which told me the situation had finally exceeded their content instincts. Jalen leaned toward the screen, blinking, lips moving slightly as he read the legal language. My father braced both hands on the table as if the floor had shifted. My mother looked from me to the screen and back again, trying to find the version of reality where this was still a misunderstanding she could scold me out of. The staff stood frozen near the service doors. Someone's fork clattered onto a plate. The sound was tiny, but in that silence, it rang like a bell. Kiara's face changed color so quickly it was almost clinical. My mother reached for her reading glasses. "What is this?" "Documentation," I said. "Forgery," my father snapped. I placed my phone on the table. "Attorney Price is on speed dial. Call him." Nobody moved. Elias advanced the slide. Certified marriage certificate. Date, February 14th. My mother whispered. "Wife?" "Yes," I said. "Elias and I married on Valentine's Day. I told you. I mailed proof. Kiara destroyed it." Kiara's eyes widened. "You cannot prove that." I leaned toward her. "Certified mail, delivery record, cousin witness, and if you want to discuss opening and destroying mail addressed to our parents, we can talk about federal mail obstruction right before your wedding photos." Her mouth closed. My mother went pale in a way that told me she knew more than she wanted to admit. Elias switched slides again. The willow tree appeared on the screen, sunlit and enormous, its branches trailing into the lake. "Kiara," he said, voice professional now, "you should research tree law before you call a logging crew." She stared at him. "Tree law?" "That willow is a specimen heritage tree, over 100 years old, planted in 1924 by the original owner, documented in the preservation plan. As a certified arborist, I appraised its value at $80,000. Jalen's eyes widened. He understood numbers even if he did not understand commitment. "Under state timber trespass law," Elias continued. Intentionally cutting or damaging someone else's tree can trigger treble damages, triple compensation. 80,000 times 3 is $240,000 before legal fees, court costs, and any preservation penalties. He looked at Kiara, then my parents. A DJ stage would be very expensive. The silence became heavier. My father recovered first. We can discuss this privately. No, I said. You made my property public. We discuss it publicly. Then the accusations began. Cruel, vindictive, jealous, heartless, trying to ruin Kiara's special day. I let them talk. As a CPA, I have learned that feelings are noisy, but numbers wait patiently. Technically, the 30-day notice Attorney Price mailed had expired. My parents were no longer interim managers. Kiara had no lease, no venue contract, no ownership, and no authorization to host anything on the property. They were trespassing. That word changed my breathing. Trespassing, not family gathering, not wedding rehearsal, not misunderstanding, trespassing. Once you name something correctly, it loses some of its power to manipulate you. My parents had spent my life renaming things. Favoritism became sensitivity, neglect became independence, theft became helping your sister. My courthouse marriage became a stunt. Kiara's sabotage became concern. I was done letting them title the file. I pulled the invoice from my handbag. It landed on the table with a satisfying slap. You want the wedding to proceed tomorrow? I asked. Pay up. Kiara stared at the paper like it had grown teeth. I read aloud. Market rate venue rental fee for 12-bedroom historic lakefront estate, $15,000. My mother gasped. Emergency booking surcharge for less than 24 hours notice, $35,000. My father said my name like a warning. Tree risk insurance fee for specimen vegetation protection, $50,000. Elias nodded once. Appropriate. Emotional distress and unauthorized use fee, $30,000. I looked at Kiara. Total, $130,000. Jalen whispered something under his breath. The influencers near the bar had stopped filming each other and started filming us. My mother stood so fast her chair tipped. How dare you charge your sister for a wedding in her own family home? I leaned close enough that only she and Kiara could hear. I know Kiara tore up my certified mail. I know she set up the email filter. I know she lied about me being unstable. If you want this handled as a family matter, stop yelling. Kiara's eyes flashed with panic. I straightened and returned to full volume. This is a business transaction. You want a luxury venue. You pay the venue fee. My father tried the old warm voice. Amara, let's settle this later. No. Venue policy requires payment before the event. Since I am family, I am willing to waive the emotional distress fee and emergency surcharge. I opened my calculator app. Settlement amount, $25,000. That covers the base rental and part of the tree risk insurance. As for the $52,000 already spent renovating my house, $32,000 from you and $20,000 from Kiara, consider it a non-refundable deposit and housewarming gift. My mother cried. My father turned red. Kiara looked like her wedding dress had caught fire in her imagination. You cannot expect us to carry that much cash, Dad sputtered. I am a CPA. I do not want cash. I want a paper trail. I placed a payment form and pen on the table. Check or wire, 10 minutes. If funds are not secured, the venue closes tonight. Elias locks the gates, security is canceled, and Kiara can explain to her followers why the wedding moved to a parking lot. There are moments when people realize you are not bluffing. They make a specific face. My family made it together. The next sound was my mother's sobbing and my father's pen scratching across a check. $25,000, payable to Amara Bennett. Memo line, venue fee. I checked the date, signature, and amount before folding it into my wallet. My father watched the check disappear into my bag with the expression of a man watching a boat leave shore without him. Kiara stared at the memo line. Venue fee, she whispered, like the words themselves were obscene. Accurate descriptions matter, I said. My mother tried one last time. Amara, please, you have made your point. Let your sister have one beautiful day. I looked around at the ballroom they had painted, the floors they had refinished, the curtains Kiara chose, the flowers waiting to be photographed, the tree still standing outside because I had finally stopped asking politely. She can have the day, I said. She just cannot have my house for free. The wedding may proceed tomorrow at 2, I said. Elias and I will not attend. You cannot skip your sister's wedding, Mom cried. I am not skipping it. I am renting it out. Elias closed his briefcase. Ready? Absolutely. We walked out together through a room full of shocked faces, broken narratives, and very expensive chandeliers I now owned. The night air smelled like lake water and spring flowers. In the car, Elias started the engine and looked over at me. You were extraordinary. We were extraordinary. That tree law speech was art. He grinned, rare and bright. I practiced. Certified arborist, I said, squeezing his hand. My hero. The wedding happened the next day like a funeral wearing white roses. I know because Devin sent photos. Kiara stood in her $15,000 dress with dead eyes and a perfect smile. My parents looked stiff behind her. Jalen smiled like a man trying to calculate whether marrying into chaos was still profitable. The willow tree appeared in every lakefront photo, untouched, branches moving in the breeze like Grandma herself was laughing softly. Devin said the ceremony was technically beautiful and emotionally cursed. Guests whispered between vows. Kiara's influencer friends still filmed, but the captions changed from dream wedding to intimate family moment, which is influencer language for something went wrong and we are pretending it was intentional. My mother smiled so tightly in the formal portraits that her jaw looked painful. My father spent most of the reception near the bar, not speaking. The DJ stage never appeared. The existing dance floor was used inside the ballroom, exactly where the venue had always held dancing before Kiara decided history needed subwoofers. At one point, the photographer tried to pose Kiara and Jalen beneath the willow. Devin said Kiara refused to stand under it. Good. Elias and I were 30,000 feet above the Atlantic while Kiara said her vows. We used the $25,000 for first-class tickets to Italy. Rome first. Then Florence, then a week in Tuscany at a villa with stone walls, olive trees, and no relatives demanding gratitude for things they stole. The flight attendant brought champagne in real glass flutes. Elias lifted his. To the coolest negotiation I have ever witnessed. To Grandma, I said. To Grandma. Clouds moved beneath us like white fields. Do you think they will forgive us? Elias asked. I considered it seriously. Probably not. Do you need them to? For the first time in my life, the answer did not hurt. No. Willowmere Manor stayed mine. I did not move there full time. Too many memories lived in the walls, and I had no interest in becoming a ghost in my own inheritance. Instead, I hired a property management company specializing in historic inns and event venues. They reviewed bookings, vendor contracts, preservation requirements, and market positioning, their projection, profitability within the first year, weddings, corporate retreats, historical society tours, authentic lakefront heritage experiences that did not require cutting down a 100-year-old tree for bass speakers. The manager they assigned was Celia Grant, a woman with silver locks, a clipboard, and the kind of practical reverence I trusted immediately. This place already knows what it is, she said in the ballroom, glancing at the chandeliers Kiara had imported. We do not need to make it louder. We need to help the right clients hear it. That sentence alone justified her fee. She kept some of the renovations because beauty is not invalid just because the wrong person paid for it. The refinished floors stayed. The lighting stayed after being rewired to preservation standards. The blush curtains did not. Celia replaced them with deep green velvet that brought the lake back into the room and made the ballroom feel less like a bridal showroom and more like Willowmere again. The bridal suite became a heritage suite with framed photographs of Grandma Lillian and my great-grandfather. The custom sign with Kiara and Jalen's names went into storage for exactly 1 week before I authorized disposal. I did not need a shrine to entitlement. The willow became a signature feature. Elias designed a heritage tree preservation program for the property: soil care, cabling assessment, annual health reports, root zone protection, educational signage. Guests started requesting ceremonies beneath it. Grandma's tree became not an obstacle, but a blessing people paid to stand under. The first wedding booked under the new management was a small ceremony for 2 women who had been together for 12 years. They asked specifically whether they could exchange vows beneath the willow because they had seen the preservation story on the website. I watched from the porch, not as a guest, just as the owner pretending to check on logistics while quietly crying into my coffee. The brides stood beneath those branches with only 20 people around them. No drones, no live stream, no DJ stage, just lake wind and vows spoken like they meant them. Afterward, one of them touched the trunk and said, "This tree feels like a witness." "It is," I said. That was the moment I stopped seeing Willowmere only as something I had saved from Kiara. It was something I could return to the world properly, with rules, care, and enough profit to keep the roof repaired. As for Kiara, the wedding did not launch her brand the way she imagined. Devin kept me updated even after I told him he did not have to. Her followers noticed the strain. Her posts looked desperate. Sponsorships slowed. People whispered about the venue dispute, the secret marriage, the check, the sister who owned everything. Jalen and Kiara moved into a cramped 2-bedroom apartment that advertised luxury because the lobby had fake marble tile. For the first time in years, Kiara got a job. Boutique marketing firm. Entry level. Apparently, turning family theft into content did not count as transferable executive experience. My parents tried to maintain their image, but small towns love stories with documents. Word spread. The daughter who cared for grandma inherited everything. The golden child tried to hijack a manor. The wedding turned into a hostage negotiation with an invoice. Mom stopped inviting me to family dinners. Dad stopped offering financial advice I had never requested. Kiara blocked me everywhere. Their absence felt less like loss and more like finally turning off a loud machine. I expected loneliness. Instead, I found room to think without anticipating criticism, room to celebrate small wins without bracing for Kiara to redirect the conversation, room to love my husband without my mother measuring whether that love looked impressive enough beside my sister's staged romance. Some nights grief still came, but it came honestly. I missed the family I should have had, not the one I had escaped. There is a difference, and learning it felt like unlocking a door from the inside. Elias and I built our own traditions: Sunday coffee on our balcony, monthly visits to Willowmere, quiet walks to the willow, where I sometimes sat with a book and tea because grief can become ritual without becoming a cage. We also had our real wedding that October. Not the legal one, not the fluorescent hallway that saved the manor, but the wedding our hearts had planned before the trust made timing urgent. 30 people came. Devin came. Attorney Price came and pretended he was not emotional. Aunties who had quietly doubted the family narrative came too, carrying casseroles, flowers, and apologies they offered without demanding I make them comfortable. I wore ivory, not white, because Grandma always said ivory had memory in it. Elias stood beneath the willow in a deep green suit, hands folded, eyes bright. The leaves had turned gold at the edges. The lake held the sky. No live stream, no sponsored tags, no family performance. When we said our vows, the wind moved through the willow branches like applause. That was the wedding I count. The other one was strategy. This one was joy. And nobody in that circle asked me to make myself smaller so Kiara could feel chosen. Attorney Price remained professionally neutral through the whole ordeal, but over lunch months later, he allowed himself a smile. "I have practiced law for 40 years, he said, and that was one of the most satisfying uses of trust law I have ever seen." The invoice was too much? The invoice was elegant. I laughed. My grandmother taught me numbers tell the truth. She chose well. I looked out the restaurant window at the lake in the distance, at the line of trees beyond it. Do you think she knew this would happen? Attorney Price folded his napkin carefully. Your grandmother knew exactly who visited her when there was nothing to gain. She knew who read to her. She knew who would preserve the willow. The trust was not a game, Amara. It was a filter. That stayed with me. The trust did not reward whoever married first because Grandma was old-fashioned. It revealed who would act from love and who would act from greed. It also revealed me to myself. For years, I thought being good meant being endlessly available. I thought fairness meant splitting everything evenly with people who had never split responsibility with me. I thought keeping peace was the moral choice, even when peace required me to hand over every boundary like collateral. Grandma knew better. She did not leave me the manor because I was perfect. She left it because I understood stewardship. Because I could look at a tree and see history, not an inconvenience. Because I could look at a set of trust documents and see protection, not drama. Because when the moment came, I would finally choose the legacy over the people trying to consume it. Maybe I was cruel. Maybe I was vindictive. Maybe charging your sister $25,000 to hold her wedding on property she tried to steal is not what polite people call graceful. But if I had stayed silent, Kiara would have cut down the willow. My parents would have erased my marriage. My grandmother's estate would have become a content backdrop until there was nothing left worth preserving. Instead, I kept the manor. I saved the tree. I accepted $52,000 in free renovations. I funded a honeymoon with a venue fee. And I stepped out from under a family that had mistaken my patience for permission. The last time I visited Willowmere, the sun was lowering over the lake. Elias checked the willow's trunk while I sat beneath the branches with one of Grandma's paperbacks. The leaves moved softly overhead, whispering against each other in the wind. For a moment, I could almost hear her voice. Numbers tell the truth. So do trees. If your sister tried to steal a $5.2 million estate by hiding your marriage and then threatened to cut down your grandmother's tree, would you stop the wedding or charge her rent? Tell me what you would have done when the invoice hit the table.